In this video, we are going to have a look at the Tamron 17-28 2.8 zoom lens for the Sony E-mount cameras. Kia ora, good morning everyone, Rich Wong here. So today we are going to have a look at the new Tamron 17-28 f2.8 zoom lens. So this is the wide angle lens Tamron specially created for the Sony E-mount system. You probably already know about the Tamron 2875 f2.8 lens. That one is a super popular lens. A lot of people bought it as a kit lens when they buy the Sony A series camera. So could this 17-28 2.8 be a good companion lens to the 2875 2.8? We are going to find out in this review. Before we start the review, I have to make it clear that I am using a pre-production sample that I got from Tamron for this review. The lens won't be available for sale for another month or two, so it's quite possible that Tamron will be making some more changes and improve the lens a little bit before the lens hit the market. Let's talk about the build quality and the design as usual. The lens is mostly made of plastic, so it could feel a little bit plasticky, but pretty much the same as the Tamron 2875 2.8. The good thing about the lens being a little bit plasticky is that the lens doesn't really weigh much at all. The lens itself is only 420 grams, so it is a pretty lightweight lens for a f2.8 zoom lens. Also, look at the size of the lens. It is a very small lens. You look at it, it's pretty much like a typical full frame kit lens, but it is a f2.8 and it covers wide angle down to 17mm. So it is pretty impressive that Tamron managed to make the lens so compact and so lightweight. The lens comes with a lens hood. It's made of plastic, so it is a little bit plasticky, but apart from that, it provides pretty good protection, both physical protection and also optical protection from lens flare as well. In terms of the design, the lens is pretty simple. There is only a zoom ring and then also a focus ring. Both are quite smooth. Apart from that, there's no buttons or switches on the lens. The front filter track is 67mm, which is quite small considering this is a wide angle f2.8 zoom lens. So we have a look at the vignetting performance to see if it affects the vignetting. But the good thing with the 67mm front filter track is that this is the same size as the Tamron 2875 f2.8 lens. That means if you have the two lenses, then you can easily share your filters between the two lenses. Despite the lens feel a little bit plasticky, it is actually weatherproof, dustproof, so it shouldn't really be a problem if you want to take photo or video when it's raining or snowing or when there's quite a bit of dust outside. When you are changing the focal length or when you are changing the focus distance, the height of the lens does not change at all. The autofocus performance of this lens is very good. The autofocus speed is quite fast. The autofocus operation is very smooth and it makes virtually no noise at all. If for some reason you are a Nikon shooter using a Nikon Z6 or Z7 camera and you are watching this Sony E-lens review, I can tell you that I have tried to use this lens with the Techart TZE01 adapter using the 1.0 firmware on the Nikon Z6, and the autofocus performance is actually very good. It's very fast and there's absolutely no problem at all. Next, let's talk about the image quality, and let's start with the image sharpness first. To test the image sharpness, I tested at 3 different focal lengths, at the 17mm, which is the widest end, and then the 22mm, which is the middle, and then 28mm, which is the longest side. So if you talk about the center image sharpness, at all the 3 focal lengths, even at the maximum aperture f2.8, the image center sharpness is already very good, at least when I test it with a 24 megapixel resolution camera. The center sharpness at the maximum aperture is already very sharp, so even when I stop down, there is not much difference in terms of the image sharpness. Okay, let's move to the corner and look at the corner sharpness. At 17mm, the image sharpness at maximum aperture is actually pretty good as well. It is only very slightly soft, but I think most people would be happy with the 17mm corner sharpness at f2.8. If you look at the corner sharpness at 22mm, it seems to be slightly softer compared to 17mm at 2.8. Definitely you can easily see that it is a little bit soft. If you stop down to f4, then it would increase a little bit, but to me, I feel it is still a little bit soft. If you stop down to f5.6, then the corner becomes very sharp now. At 28mm, I think the corner sharpness at f2.8 is also a little bit soft. It's not actually that soft if you compare to 22mm. I think it's sharper than at 22mm. If you stop down to f4, it improved the image sharpness. Stop down to f5.6, there is not much difference because at f4 it is already pretty sharp already. I think the overall image sharpness is actually pretty good across the whole focal range and also from center to the edges. If you shoot at f4, no matter what focal length or whether you look at the center or the corner, then you should be pretty happy with the image sharpness. Let's look at the vignetting next, and at the 17mm, the wide angle end, at maximum aperture f2.8, you can see there is a bit of vignetting. It is noticeable when I'm looking at the white wall photo. If I stop down to f4, then it becomes a little bit better, and at f5.6, then most of the vignetting has disappeared. If we now look at the 28mm and at maximum aperture f2.8, then vignetting is definitely a lot less noticeable compared to the wide end. You can still see it, but the overall vignetting is definitely a lot better. So if you stop down to f4, then the vignetting is barely noticeable now. For a wide angle zoom lens, distortion is usually quite a bit of problem. So I look at the distortion for this 17-28mm lens, and I do see quite a bit of distortion across the whole focal length range. In terms of bokeh, because this is a wide angle lens, so even though this is a full frame 2.8 lens, most of the time when you're shooting normal photo, it's very hard to dissolve the background and have any bokeh, but it's possible. So I try to take a few photos just to see how the bokeh look like when you are shooting some very close object. Then you can turn the background into bokeh. Overall, the bokeh looks quite present and it's also quite round as well. But if I zoom in the image, then I do see a little bit of onion ring pattern inside the bokeh. It's not really obvious when I first look at it, but then yeah, when I zoom into it, then I do see a little bit. Lens flare is very well controlled by this Tamron lens. I shot quite a lot of photos and videos directly into the sun, and also try to take some photo at nighttime pointing to a bright light source. The amount of lens flare and ghosting is very minimal. Honestly, I was expecting quite a bit more lens flare and ghosting when I'm shooting into the sun, but I'm happy to tell you that the Tamron 17-28 seems to be really good when it comes to lens flare control. Chromatic aberration seems to be quite well controlled as well. If you look at the photos that I shot directly into the sun and look at the high contrast area, the amount of color flinching is at very minimum level. Overall, I think the image quality is very decent. The image sharpness is very good. Lens flare control is very good. Chromatic aberration control is also very good. Distortion control can be a little bit better, but if you compare it with other ultra wide angle zoom lenses, I don't think the Tamron is doing too bad at all. When I first heard about this lens and I heard about the focal length ranges from 17 to 28, honestly, I feel it's a bit weird, because these days it's like almost every manufacturer, when they're making wide angle, ultra wide angle lens, everyone is competing with each other trying to make the widest possible lens. So like 14mm is almost like a standard wide angle lens, and some companies trying to go even wider, 12mm, 10mm. A bit strange that Tamron stopped at 17mm and doesn't go any wider. But then I think about it again, lens design, especially a zoom lens design, is always a compromise between a couple of things: the price, the size, the picture quality, and then the focal length range. For this Tamron 17-28mm lens, very obviously they try to make it as compact as possible, and the price is also very affordable. And then we look at the test results I did in this review. You can see that the image quality is also very decent. So that means the thing that they have to give up is kind of the focal length range. That's why they only go down to 17mm, because I can imagine if they want to go down to 14mm or even wider, they can do it. But if they do it, it means the size will probably be quite a bit bigger, or the image quality won't be just as good. So I guess that's why Tamron decided they want to stop at 17mm, which is actually already pretty wide. It's just not as wide or crazy as some of the latest ultra wide angle lens in the market. I guess this is quite consistent with how Tamron created the 2875 f2.8 lens. They decided they want to stop at 28mm instead of 24mm, which most of the other standard zoom lens is. But in return, they managed to create a very compact, very affordable, yet very good image quality lens. And look at the response from the market. The Tamron 2875 is now a super popular lens. So I hope it means this Tamron 17-28 f2.8 lens will be another super popular lens among the Sony E-mount camera users. If you are shooting with APS-C E-mount camera, then this lens is also quite interesting, because once you take into consideration of the crop factor, then the focal length is pretty much equivalent to around 25mm to 42mm. So that makes it a very good choice as an everyday lens for your APS-C camera. If you look at what is available right now for the Sony user, the closest competition to this lens is the Sony 1635 G Master lens. The G Master has better build quality, and it also covers a quite a bit wider focal length range. But on the other hand, the G Master is more than twice the price of this Tamron, and also the G Master lens is also quite a bit bigger and heavier as well. In terms of the image quality, I haven't done any direct side-by-side comparison, but looking at the image test result from this Tamron lens, I really don't see how the Sony 1635 can be a lot better than this Tamron lens. So overall, I think even if the Sony 1635 G Master is a better lens than the Tamron, but because of the price and the size difference, I think a lot of users will be perfectly happy with this Tamron lens, especially people who want to have a very compact setup. Then this Tamron lens will give them the most compact possible setup for their Sony camera. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this video and find it useful. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up to support me and the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel as well. And I will see you in my next video.